Now you are ready for formatting. So we're going to walk you through the requirements for MLA style paper writing in terms of the formatting. A note about utilizing this video. There's going to be a lot of steps. We want you to pause along the way in order to follow each step. Make sure to complete every step that is being addressed. Nothing in this video is optional. They're all required steps of creating an MLA style paper. Obviously, if it goes too fast, you can rewind and rewatch whenever you need to. So the first step we're going to talk about is adding an MLA style heading. The heading is what comes at the top of the paper in the upper left-hand side. So the first thing that you would need is your name, the student or the writer's name. The next thing that you put are your instructor names. If there's more than one instructor, you would do that. So in college, this would be your professors. Here at middle school or at the high school, it's your teachers. The third thing is the course name. So everyone in 7th grade language arts, the course is called Language Arts 7. That has nothing to do with what period you take language arts. The last component of that heading would be the date. Usually it's the due date. Note that the date is written in the formal style. So it actually has the date first, then the month, and then the year. So I wanted to demonstrate exactly how to add that. And I need to enter down so that I have some room to write. And I'm going to put my name. This is just an example name. The next step is to put my instructor names and make sure you spell them correctly. There's spaces after. So it's like MS period, space, and then the name. MRS period, space, and then the name. Then we put the name of the course, which for all of us is Language Arts 7, and then we put the date, and usually that's the due date. Don't forget to capitalize March. The only problem is that all of this is actually indented. It's lining up with my paragraph indent. That's a common mistake. So if that happened to you, because Google formatting just made that happen, make sure you backspace it all the way to the left-hand margin. So pause right now and go ahead and add an MLA style heading to your paper. Moving along, now it's time to add a title. The number one thing to remember is to think of the big three. Whenever you are writing, you always need to remember your task, audience, and purpose. So when we think back about the prompt for this charity paper, we have to think of a title along with every other decision that we make that is in keeping with the task at hand and the audience and the purpose. So in this particular case, our title probably should not be creative or cute, considering that this is an argumentative research paper about a serious topic. It also should be concise. That means that the title should be to the point. We've read a lot of nonfiction articles this year, and almost all of their titles informed us of the paper's content. So think of the title as a clue to the main idea or the central idea for your reader. Some examples of titles that may fit our task, audience, and purpose for this paper could be Why the Red Cross Deserves Support, or The Red Cross, a charity worthy of support. Notice the capitalization there. Also, the title must be centered. Let's take a look at how to center your title. What you're going to do is place your cursor all the way on the left-hand side, and then up here you're going to find the Center Align button. When you click on it, it makes your cursor go in the exact center of the page, and then you can type out your title. Some people think that they should tab, 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 tab. That looks like it's about the middle, and then they start typing. Or worse yet, they do a bunch of individual spaces. That is not how you center something. So you must do it the exact way we just showed you. Please take a moment to pause the video and work on your title. Now we are ready for the Works Cited page. This will be the last page of your paper, and as you know, those in-text citations that you planted throughout your paper, those are just shortcuts to lead your readers to the actual citations, which are going to be listed in your bibliography, which is also called the Works Cited page. What we need to do is open up our sources that we had exported into a Google Doc from Noodle Tools. And here they are. Don't mess with any of the formatting or spacing. And right now they're on 2 different documents. My sources are on one document, but my rough draft is in a different document. What I'm going to do is select all of them and copy. So for me, that was Command C. And I'm coming over here, and I need to go down to the very end of my essay. My essay ends in the middle of a page. And I can see that as I enter down, it's already pre-indented by Google. I need to backspace so that it goes all the way to the left, because in a moment I'm going to paste my Works Cited page, and if it's indented a little, it'll paste indented, which will be incorrect. My Works Cited page needs to be on the very last page, and if I put it on this page, it's sharing a page with something. So you need to enter, enter, enter all the way down, or just go into Insert, Page Break. So you go to Break and then Page Break, and that will make a new page for you. However you get to a brand new page is up to you. And now I'm ready to paste. The problem now is that I'm noticing that my Works Cited is in Times New Roman font, but the rest of my paper is in Arial font. Don't worry about the font mix-up right now. That's going to come in another step. Pause the video right now to work on transferring your Works Cited page to your rough draft. Now that you are done with your Works Cited page, we are moving along to font and format specs. There are quite a few requirements listed on this slide. I'm going to explain them right now, and then I'm going to demonstrate them in Google Docs one by one. The first requirement that MLA papers must have, according to the MLA handbook, is a size 12 font. Please note that Google Docs defaults their font to 11, so you're going to need to be mindful of that. You must either use Arial font or Times New Roman font, but you cannot mix a little bit of both. Consistency is key. Black ink is required, so you can't have colorful ink sprinkled throughout. Your paper must be double spaced. Again, I'm going to explain how to do that. You must have 1-inch margins. Probably, if you haven't messed with the margins at all, it's already defaulted to that. So it needs to be 1 inch from the top, from the left, from the bottom, and from the right. Use only one space after periods. Some people are taught after every sentence ends to hit the spacebar twice. And in MLA style, that's incorrect. Only one space after sentences. You also cannot have extra spaces between paragraphs. Again, we'll demonstrate that in a moment. Lastly, you need to make sure that you've used the Tab key for paragraph indenting rather than hitting the spacebar 5 or 6 times. So I'm going to demonstrate how to make some of those changes. I can see right now that I am in Arial font with size 11, at least right here, but then later on, for my Works Cited page, it's Times New Roman font and it's size 12. So already we have inconsistency. In order to make the entire paper change at once, you can go to Edit, Select All, which is also just Control A. So now I have my entire paper selected, and at this point I'm ready to make a decision, Arial or Times New Roman. My personal decision is Times New Roman. The other thing is that it must be size 12. Right now some of it's size 11 and some of it's size 12. So I've made it all size 12. While the entire paper is still selected, this is a good time to come over here where there's 3 lines and a double-sided arrow for line spacing. My Works Cited page was double spaced because it came from Noodle Tools that way, but the rest of my paper is the Google default, which is 1.15. Again, it all needs to be consistent and it all must be double spaced. So now my entire paper is double spaced, including my Works Cited page, which was already double spaced. So I'm scrolling through, and one thing to look out for is sometimes when you make changes to spacing, your Works Cited page creeps up onto the same page as opposed to being on its own page. So remember, it needs to be on its own page. So I'm just putting it back where it belongs. There. Another thing that I mentioned is that you can only have one space after your periods. It's going to take me a long time to check my spacing for this whole document. So what I can do instead is do Control F, which opens the Finder tool in Google Docs. And I can type in a period, and it will highlight every time I've used a period. Well, I want to type in a period with 2 spaces afterwards so that I can see, here's one, so I can correct it. And I click the arrow, and I find another one. So the next thing I need to fix is if I have any extra spaces between paragraphs. So I'm going to scroll up to the top to see if I have that problem. And right away I can see that I have extra spaces. Delete these extra spaces. It just goes from your date to the title to your first sentence. And you want to scroll through, and I'm trying to find, aha, see right here, I did do it correctly. My one paragraph ended and my next paragraph started. The only thing that distinguishes the paragraph is the indent. So this is correct. Let me see if I can find one that would be incorrect. Aha, this one is incorrect. There's an extra space here between paragraphs. That's how some of us write. At this point, we're editing that out. So delete that and go through and make sure you don't have any extra spaces between paragraphs. At this point, another good thing to look for is if some of your paragraphs seem like they're completely indented in a weird way, So this paragraph is left aligned at the 0-inch margin, because there's the 1 inch, there's the 2, this is 0. And yet this one, it's indented, but it's like this whole paragraph is indented a little. So if you see that happening, you have to backspace again, and then re-indent using the tab key to fix that. Another common problem is that some people didn't use the tab key. They just used a lot of spaces, and that's not correct. What you need to do is have the tab key pressed. And you shouldn't have it lots of indents with lots of spaces. Again, that's incorrect. It needs to just be one tab. Lastly, I also wanted to talk about the idea of subheadings. Some of the mentor texts that we studied used subheadings, and some people decided they wanted to challenge themselves and add subheadings throughout their charity paper. So I went to the MLA Handbook website to look up what the rules are for adding subheadings to a research paper, because that's not something I already knew. I don't have the whole MLA Handbook memorized. And I read through this page, and it explained exactly what to do, and it talked about consistency being really important, the position, the spacing, and the capitalization, as well as the length. So I have a couple examples to show you if you choose to put subheadings in your paper. I decided to put a subheading here. Now this subheading is in bold, and it's all the way to the left. It is not indented. The couple of paragraphs that go with this subheading, those are indented, and they are both relating to this subheading main idea. I also put a subheading for this section, and everything in this section is all about how money is well spent. With this subheading, I used an M- and a rhetorical question, so I was kind of combining a lot of the techniques that we studied. Again, everything that is in this section goes with what the subheading states. So if you're going to use subheadings, you need to make sure you use them correctly. I put them in bold, I capitalize them, and they're all the way to the left. They are not indented. Now it's time for you to pause to make sure you complete all of these font specs. Now that you're done doing the font specs, it's time to talk about the header. Now this is different from the heading, which we talked about at the beginning of this video. Thank you, MLA, for making that unclear. The header is something that comes at the head of the page, and it is the writer's last name, so the student's last name, and the page numbers. The first thing you need to do when you're adding a header is to come up to where it says Insert, and you're looking for header and page number, and you're going to select Header. Right now, my cursor is all the way to the left, but I need to get it all the way to the right. Now, the way you do that is not to tab, 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 space, space, space. Instead, you come over to this button here that says Right Align, and when I click on that, my cursor automatically jumps to the right-hand side of the page. The problem right now is that it's too close to the top of the page, so I'm going to enter down just once, and that will make it a 1/2 inch margin, which is the rule for MLA style. Then I type my last name. I'm leaving my cursor there, and now I need to insert page numbers. In a document, you don't type the page numbers. Whatever is in the header is going to be on all of your pages. So if I were to type page 1 right here, then it would say my last name and then 1 on all of my pages. So that's not the way to do page numbers. Instead, go to Insert, and you're going to find where it says header and page number, and then you're going to the page number. There's 4 different options, and the option that we want is this one here. The pages are in the upper right-hand corner, including the first page. So I'm going to click that, but now I need to go in and make a space, there we go, between my last name and the page number. To get out of the header, you just click anywhere off of it, and I can scroll down, and it should say, yep, it automatically made that into page 2, and then I should see page 3, and so on. Now I have a problem. This font is Arial size 11. Why? Because that is the Google Docs default. Remember, I need to make all of my font consistent, and since I had decided to do Times New Roman, and I was told that it had to be size 12 through MLA, this too has to be Times New Roman and size 12. So make sure you have consistency with your header. Please pause the video to add your header now. At this point, you should be completely done with your MLA formatting, and everything in your paper should be up to snuff to meeting the requirements.